So we got KirbyKaze here, aka David McDonald. You just came from work and I put you in a little bit of a rush. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good actually. It's actually kind of a relief to finally be like, yeah, I don't have much drive. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, but I do like the support. That was a nice surprise when I woke up. Well, not really much of a surprise. I think. I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. I
Yeah.
don't.
It seems like for a while, you were thinking about this a lot. So why don't you give a little bit of context because it's not out of the blue. You've been playing, you've been a top level player for like 6 to 7 years. It doesn't just come overnight that you just go like, I just quit this game, like playing
Uh,
competitively.
okay, so if I'm gonna be 100% honest with you,
Yes.
the last 4 months have been really hard. Not because of like disappointing placings or anything like that. That has absolutely nothing to do with this because I've dealt with those before.
Right.
Um, it's really more to do with I just feel like I've been running on empty. Like I don't have any gas in the tank, and I've kept trying to like figure out ways that I can like. I don't know if any of you watched Canada Cup, but I had like a notebook and I've been taking like way more notes between matches and stuff like that, and I tried to go back to like some of the things I used to do to like, reignite the spark and try to like learn more, treat it more as a learning process, more as a way to like think and challenge myself to be smarter and stuff like that. But it wasn't the same. Um and it always came like it worked some of it worked for a bit, but it always came back to the same thing. Like I just don't have the same passion. And I think that's partial. I think there's a number of reasons for that, some of which I can talk about and some of which I would rather not talk about.
Okay. Why don't we,
Yeah.
talk about what you can talk about and
Okay.
go from there.
Okay, so I guess the biggest thing was the first time I took, because this is not my first real, like, my first time leaving this community, I guess. I don't know if any of you remember the last time I don't know if any of you were around for the last time I left the community.
I
But,
think some people were.
okay. Well, that one was a little less
Yeah.
voluntary than this one. So I was always like, when I left the first time, I was always kind of like, ugh. I was like, ugh, really? Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I didn't want to go, and that made coming back really easy because then once things kind of worked, once things were a little bit, it was easier to, once the Canada Smash had settled a little bit and some of the drama had cleared up, and you know, I felt okay about coming back, then it was easy because I was like, yeah, I really want to keep doing this. But um, I think I always wondered, like, could I actually like start placing well again? And after the first break, I did. Like, there was a long period of like sucking, where, like had horrible placements and like didn't beat anyone good, and it was really really hard. And I started beating a few good people, like a handful of them. My Apex run was really good. That was like really motivating. And then I don't know. That's about it really. I just wanted to see if I could like do okay again. Kind of did it. That's
Yeah.
about it.
So, I think a lot of people forget because, we have so many events and like, you know the best, like, everybody's a little fickle. It's like, oh, KK is like the best Sheik NA or like, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, like KK is like not good anymore. He's washed up. How does it feel to like kind of ride those waves? Like, cause like, in 2011 we didn't have like social media constantly having you guys underneath a microscope. So how does that affect you?
Uh, it's pretty stressful. It's I don't know. I think you remember I don't know if you remember talking to me at I think it was I'm Not Yelling, because I was asking you about like because I remember before I think my set with Silence Vector or something or Fly Manita, I came up to you and I was just like, man, I am so stressed out. I hate playing on stream. I can't. Oh my god, the pressure. And I know that as soon as I do something wrong, somebody on Twitter or whatever is gonna like just and I'm like, I really want to do well. And I think what you told me was to just relax and do your thing. Um It's a lot more stressful though, because like the second like you can get Giphy catted in like a minute now. Like they're so relentless about that. You screw something up and it's like, oh my god, like this game losing SD or something. It goes up immediately, and we didn't really have that back in the day. So it's a lot more pressure now. It is definitely harder now
Yeah.
to like keep your mind together. That is definitely a thing. I think it takes a lot more mental fortitude now to keep your mind off all of that, and to keep your mind like collected through that and keep it on the game, because there's more things trying to pull your mind out of the screen than there were before.
Right.
That's how I look at it. I think that's part of why like players like Mango have been so adaptive, because I think Mango just kind of like he has this way of embracing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Same with Left, and like with his villain, like when he was kind of playing the villain role. Like I feel like people like that who have those kind of magnetic personalities for certain things, they really. I feel like for someone like me who's kind of like a little bit more quiet on occasion, it kind of gets to me a little bit more. But I think for some of the others, like they just love it. I think that's part of what makes them such strong competitors.
Right. And then, we go from like Apex and I'm Not Yelling, and, those were just this year, and those are very, good performances for the most part. Top 8, pretty stacked events. Fifth at Super Nebs. I know that you always want to improve, and I always love seeing you on Twitter after you lose, like, gosh, like, I'm going to learn this matchup, and, like, I remember seeing that a lot from you. Third at Gommel, lost to Hacks, and then EVO 2015.
Those were really fun sets. I love playing Hacks.
Yeah, and I think people forget sometimes, because those are all this year. I think those are all great performances, given how much everybody has grown as players in 2015. And then EVO 2015 happens, and Big House 5 happens. EVO 2015, you get the infamous Sheik and Ice Climbers bracket. Like, what were you thinking during that stretch?
Honestly, I was like, I actually really wanted to play Chudat because he's really good, and I really wanted to because I think I've played every other good Ice Climber player in bracket except for him. So I wanted to see how he compares, and then I don't know, I just got bodied. Like I don't know, I don't even know what to say about that set. Like, in retrospect, Fox is a horrible choice. Let's start with that. Especially like, oh my god, like in hindsight's 2020. Like that was so dumb. Like he has like the next best players in his region are like Siren, Red, and Chillin. Like what on earth was I thinking? And the funny thing is, even Nintendo warned me about that. I didn't listen, and I really should have listened. But actually, no, Nintendo would be above Chu. Okay, whatever. But like the next kind of like batch of like elite players in this region are all Fox players, and I'm like, I can do this. I've beaten like Trail with Fox, and
yeah,
and no, it didn't work. And then versus Swedish, it was just like, chain grab Sheikers are wild, and he just, I don't know, I just think his strategy was like a lot better than mine. Like the way he approached the matchup, was just a lot more, I guess, structured, a little less freeform, more structured, and I think that it paid off for him.
Yeah. Do you feel like the gameplay is evolving then? Because in some ways I feel like you are the Mango of Sheiks in many aspects. You skirmish a lot. You go for quote unquote non-optimal punishes. You like the neutral a lot. You like the outplays.
I love neutral's my favorite. Oh my god, I love it. The funny thing is, I'm probably gonna be remembered for up smashing people on the top platform, but it's like, no, I did so many more cool things than that, but whatever. So I'm okay with being remembered for like a combo I did on like Dr. PvP once.
Revival of melee.
Yeah, I'm okay with like being remembered for a combo I did on him like one time ever. Yeah. I'm perfectly fine with that. It is a good combo. It is quite a good combo.
So, what do you think of Melee in 2015 and like moving forward? Because I always love to like pick your brain on the meta, and I think we're seeing, no offense, you falling slightly behind, especially in these quote unquote soft matches like Sheik, where if you don't play this certain way, like you're just not gonna win because of the variance and the sheer punishment of grabbing and killing off of that, as opposed to trying to do something else.
Oh yeah, like matches are way more streamlined now. Matchups are way more streamlined now. It's really bad to take. It's bad. It's like becoming. It was already bad to take risks, but it's getting worse and worse to take risks. Definitely a premium on safety. Absolutely. I would add to that. You know, if you're not going to go for like an optimized punish, you have to have a really good. The way I still think that mixing up on your punishment still works. Like going for something sort of non-optimal, if we want to air quote that.
Yeah.
I still think there's still a lot of merit to that, but you have to have a very, very, very good reason to do it. And kind of like part of why this is gonna sound so dumb, and oh god, but part of why I did some of like try to like some of the more elaborate setups with Sheik is mostly to like just see if I could do them. That is not a good enough reason anymore to go for some of the more elaborate setups. You have to have a specific reason that pertains to their strategy and lines up with them specifically. Like, good example of this would be like, when you're comboing somebody with Peach, for example, you have like the option, you have like a bunch of options available, especially on like let's say a fastballer. You have a bunch of option trees available to where you can go for something like a hard aerial, like a hard nair to finish. That's kind of like the that's like one guaranteed way of like making sure that you get some bang for your buck. But because that's just such a powerful option, there's a tendency to like survival DI when she has the opportunity to do that, and that's how Armada gets like his soft bear to strong nair. But then the answer to soft bear to strong nair would be to DI out on the soft bear to prevent the hard follow up. So that kind of gives power back to the initial option. Something like a mix-up system like that, where you start to prey on the things that you condition them in, like the combo escapes you've conditioned them into. Something like that has a lot of merit, and something like that has a lot of power, especially for pulling ahead.
Yeah.
Because there's more pressure on them to make correct plays, and you have, the advantage of a lead. But you can't just be cool. I don't think it's good to be cool for the sake of being cool.
Yeah, but to get to those rock, paper, scissors moments you're describing, you have to play very fundamental, and you can't risk too much to get to that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier, and you know what? That's kind of something I considered when I was making the example. It's easier to show, but it's just easier to show rock, paper, scissors or like risk reward when you're dealing with something like the punishment, because one player's like obviously in control.
Yeah.
It's just easier to make examples with that, but I agree with you.
So we're gonna take this back because you're one of the people that has I would say a pretty storied history. Yeah.
I'm old and decrepit. Like I'm ancient.
You played for a while. You've had strong peaks, but your peak didn't quite coincide with what probably the Smash documentary would have probably put you into more stardom, quote unquote. So a lot of people don't know like the history of KirbyKaze, so we want to bring that out. So like, how did you get started in the wonderful world of Melee?
Okay, so I started with card games. If we're going all the way back, I started with card games like Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that. Played online net battle. Then I bought Smash, and I got Smash when I was in 2002 or 2001 or whatever. Played it, became the best with my friends. Originally, I was actually the worst of our group.
Yeah.
I was like straight up horrible. It was like my first. It was like my second fighting game ever. It was the first one with Smash 64. I was so bad. I was so beyond bad, and eventually I started figuring things out. I was a Kirby player. Maybe that, and you know what? When you're playing at that level, the tier list really doesn't matter. But Kirby still sucks. But I liked Kirby. Kirby's hype. Kirby's a homie. So I stuck it out with him. I learned that his down tilt is good. I learned that back air is good. I learned how to roll a lot. Learned his grabs are good. And I was like, yo, Kirby. So then, because I had gone through like Pokemon and Magic and every other thing, I knew as soon as I became the best player with my friends, I still sucked.
Yeah.
I was completely awful. Being the best amongst your friends basically is the equivalent of, I don't know, nothing. I knew there had to be a higher level metagame, so I looked up Smashboards, found the regional zones after navigating through the website, and then I was like, oh sick, there's a tournament in like an hour away, like an hour or like 40 minutes away from me or something. So I made it over there. I was still a kid at the time, and I I made sure I knew how to wave dash and stuff like that because I made sure I knew advanced techniques because I like grinded those before I went, and then I still got bodied. I got swamped, and I was just like, wow. But I loved the game because I was like I could see kind of like how the options worked and how combat worked a little bit, and I was like, yo, this is sick. I was like, this is all the fun and skill of like the card games and stuff, except there's none of the RNG. Like there's none of the like I'm in control here. I'm in the driver's seat. It's not like oh my god, I didn't draw any lands, I'm dead, or oh my god, I only drew lands, I'm dead. Like
Yeah.
you're just like, it's like, no, I'm in the seat. I always have choice on what's going on. I can always play a role in the interaction. I was like, I loved that. I was like, yo, this is like Pokemon without the hacks, without like the friggin' 10% freeze rate. I was like, this is amazing. This is the greatest thing ever. Why didn't I do this earlier?
And
then yeah, I was hooked.
So you've been playing since like 2003, then it seems like, and competitively, I mean.
No, I started competitively in like 2006.
Okay.
I kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Like, I kind of started taking Pokemon more seriously between like 2003 and 2006, and then I started playing Melee again just because one of my friends like randomly brought it over.
Okay.
Then I was like, hey, this is fun. And then I looked up, and then I started looking up advanced techniques and smash boards and all that stuff again.
And then how's your path? Because it seems like for everybody that was roughly in your time, it was still kind of like the Wild West in terms of Melee and the scenes. There's probably some, really good players. How's your journey in the locals to grind from, I don't know, getting 25th or 33rd or near last to kind of making your ranks to where, like, I believe in 08, you were one of the dominant forces of Canada.
Okay, well, to begin, this was before what I affectionately called like the technical revolution, like which is when Mewtwo King became like the best player. So this is pre-2007, because like back in the day, strategy was not something we talked about. It was all your feelings, it was all your instincts, and it was all situational gobbledygook. And let me tell you, coming from Pokemon and Magic and card games, this did not sit well with me. I was like, this is stupid. I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. How come none of you know frame data? How come none of you know like how much damage your moves do? How come none of you know knockdown percents? Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, what is this community? It did not make sense to me, because I would see people like with Marth, and they'd be like down throwing Spacies on FD, and I'd be like, but you can chain grab him. I'm like, why? And none of it made any sense to me. So I was a weirdo. In my community, I was a huge weirdo because I remember scouring through, like one of the first things I did after my first tournament was like scouring through Super Doodle Man's like frame data and Mewtwo King's frame data and looking for anything that would give me, I ran so many tests on like how Kirby's moves work and like what percent does like these things link together at. And I knew about DI, so I was like, okay, some of this will be practical, some of it won't, but I just needed to know how things worked. I stopped getting last in Canada tournaments. That was a big highlight for me. That was a high point for me. I started getting like 9th, 17th, 13th with Kirby, and I was like, yeah, sick. And then I was like, at one time I think I got 7th. That was like, oh my god, I was on cloud 9. I was like, oh my god, Kirby, man.
Do you think?
And I had no illusions about how bad he was, because he was like 4th from the bottom. So I was like, at the time, so I was like, all right, the character sucks. But then at the same time, I was like, I still want to learn this game through this character because I love him. But then I kept running into like Rainax and IB, and like this other Peach player we had in our region, like the Lorded one, and like this other guy, Bread Butterer, and they were like some of our good players, and like I just got swamped by them every time I put Kirby against them. And this was back when we had like counter picks like Jungle Japes, and I tried all sorts of weird crap to just like, because it's like Marth Kirby, so you'd be like Jungle Japes to like try to abuse Kirby side edges and stuff like that. Like, it was wild, it was crazy, and I still could not take games from these guys. And eventually I was just like, all right, this is not Kirby's fault entirely. Like, I could still be making better decisions. Like, this is not, like, gotta be real here. Like, some of these roles I'm doing and stuff like that, like, they suck. These are bad plays. But, realistically, how good do I think I can get with Kirby?
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah, so then I eventually had, like, an epiphany, and I was... Shootad was my favorite player at the time, so I made the switch to ICs. Mained them for about 6 months, or a year or so. And then my controller broke at a Smash Fest.
Oh.
I mean, not at a Smash Fest, at a tournament. And I couldn't do anything with them. Like, I couldn't chain grab, I couldn't do desync, like pivot desyncs. I couldn't do any of like the things that I use as like part of my neutral game. And I couldn't even kill people off throw. I had already been learning Sheik as like a backup character to the Peach matchup. So since I was already at the venue, and I was like, it's such a waste to just bus home. Like, screw it. So I just entered with Sheik anyway. I wound up getting second, and I was like, sick. I was like, because that was the first time I really had to like play Sheik. I really played Sheik in like all her matchups. Like before, it was just like Peach only, like Peach specifically, and mostly on counterpick stages like Brinstar and stuff like that. And then I actually played her against like Foxes and Falcons and Marths and all these other characters, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I was just like, well, what if we just like take what we know about Popo and apply this to Sheik? Like, okay, I have a better forward tilt, I have a better up tilt, I have a better up air. It's not as disjointed, but it seems to combo better. I have this sick finisher, the sick air combo finisher. I don't really have that with ICs except for back air, but that's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
It's like hard to hit in some positions. And I was like, I have this huge like slap of death. So after that tournament, I was just like, I wound up getting second. I think I lost to Rainex, and I was just, Ryan wasn't there. I don't think Ahmad was there, or he got eliminated by someone randomly. But I was just like, yo, Sheik is the bomb. Like, wow, this character is so cool. She's like super Popo. And I had enough money to buy a new controller after getting second, but I was just, and I did.
And how much did you win? Just to give context.
Just like, oh, dude, this was like back when pots were tiny, so it's like, I think I got like $35, like exactly enough to buy a new controller.
Nice.
It was like $5 entry fee, I think. So I got like $35. It was enough to replace the controller. I did so. And then I was like, I kind of thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I don't actually want to play Ice Climbers. I want to play Sheik. This character's so much more fun than Ice Climbers.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I got into it. And then a lot of grinding later, a lot of relearning frame data, a lot of like experimenting with what she had. I realized as soon as I saw her frame data, and as soon as I saw when her moves like do things, I was like, man, this character is so much better than Kirby.
Can you elaborate? can you elaborate on some things? Because like you got this when you used to be my sensei. You probably got like a bunch of frustrating questions from me and other people. Like, and
no,
like they were
really good actually, except for when you asked about forward smash. That was like no.
Oh gosh, super generic questions, right? And to a new player, what you just said will just go over their head. So what do you mean that Sheik is good?
Okay, well, the first thing I looked at was how much range she has, because I needed, like, I turned on Bowser in training mode. I spent a million hours in training mode, and I would like just while I was learning her tech and while I was learning how she moved and like what her attacks were and how long her dash is and how to like get a feel for that, and I found she was actually really similar. I guess conceptually to Kirby, and that she's like primarily a ground fighter, like a lot. But then she had some of her best moves are aerials, so it was kind of like I kind of took the Kirby, like what I considered like the Kirby way of playing, where it's like you do all your spacing on the ground, or like the vast majority, like 90% of your positioning on the ground, and then the last minute adjustments you do with your jump, those are kind of like your micro spacings. And that was kind of like the first. It was a very rudimentary view of how the character worked in retrospect. But like that was kind of like what my like working model of how the character functioned was. Like you do most of your spacing on the ground. Then when you jump, because you don't have as much mobility, you can't like with Sheik, you can't just jump.
Right.
With Kirby, you can't jump. It doesn't work. So you have to do most of your fighting on the ground. And then you use your aerials once you get into favorable positions, or you don't, because they both have good tilts. But when I was like experimenting with her moves and stuff, I was like, holy geez, like these hit so much further than Kirby's, and they do more damage, and they're faster, and they combo to more things, and they put me in better positions after the combo, or even if they don't combo. Like I would just look at the things that she could do, and I was like, this character's nuts. I've been playing Kirby? I've been playing Kirby. Sheik is so good. I was just like, the only thing that I missed about Kirby after playing Sheik for like a week was how low his crouch was. That was literally the only thing that I was like, man, I really miss this about Kirby. Sheik, I was like, no, Sheik is, wow. I was like, this character is so good.
It's like a kid on Christmas that had an Atari and then got like the latest system.
Yeah, it's like you're playing on like the old Game Boy, like the original Game Boy. Your whole life, your whole like all your existence is like that original Game Boy, and then all of a sudden somebody hands you like, I don't know, an N64, and you're just like, what? Like what? How is this possible? Like I don't get it.
That's insane. So you start playing Sheik, and then around '08 to '09 is when you start to make your nationals presence, or at least regional, and people are putting you on the map. So tell us about those, lovely years. Because I think, when I look back at my career, I think the greatest joys I had were making that initial climb and starting to get on on notice in nationals. How was that like kind of a rise for you the first time?
Okay, so getting good. So my first goal, as soon as I like realized that Sheik was going to be my character, was basically I want to be the best Sheik in Canada. In retrospect, there wasn't actually much competition.
Who was it?
It was like I don't even like there was like Fogel who lived in Ottawa, but he wasn't that good. Like he was okay, but he wasn't like that good.
Yeah.
PKM Vodka, or now known as Lampadares, had a pretty good Sheik. I don't actually think there was another like notable Sheiks player in Toronto that I can recall. IB had a pretty good Sheik, like when he just messed around with her, but same thing with obviously like Ryan. Ryan's backup characters were sick. Still are. But yeah, there really weren't many like I don't recall there being like I just wanted to be the best Sheik player in the country, and then I kind of got that goal by just like I knew that to be the best Sheik, it was more than just like beating the other Sheik players, because again, this is a Magic the Gathering type thing. Like it doesn't matter if your deck beats a like the most like you can't just beat like a deck and be like, oh, it's the best deck, or like win the mirror matchup and you're like, oh, best deck. Yeah. You have to beat the field. So I was like, all right, let's look at Canada. It's like we've got a lot of really good Fox players. Like we have Chester, we have Ryan, we have Bernard, like Rainex, we have Ryan, we have a Marth player, IB, we have a Peach player, Delorded One, V1's part-time Peach. We have Bam, Falco. Alright, so I'm noticing a trend here. Spacie's in like sort of like the semi-floaty weight. Kage, so Ganondorf. I kind of went through all the characters that were common in Canada, and I was like, alright. Oh, and we had like Cool Hat, who was a Luigi player, who was quite good.
I know Cool Hat. He lives in SoCal now.
Yeah, no, Cool Hat's so cool. I love that guy.
I love him.
But yeah, so we had I kind of went through like our power ranking basically, and they're in Montreal's power ranking.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, like when I was first getting on it, like at the 15, 14, 13 spot, we also had a Jigglypuff player, Runaway Fire. But yeah, I went through like our power ranking. I was just like, okay, these are the people I gotta beat. There's a lot of Spacies, there's some Peaches, there's a Marth, there's a Luigi. These are the things that and a Ganondorf. These are the things that I 100% need to know, like on the back of my hand. These are the things I gotta excel at. So I was like, all right. So I spent hours like watching any video that I could about that, practicing as much as I could with like the local players that were good with me. Like a Marth player, Europhoria. I practiced with him like basically like every other day. Played with Ryan and Rainex like all the time. Would ask them to play secondaries versus me just so I could like work on matchups. Traveled out to Mississauga to play against like IB, or he'd come to my place, and like that's like a 3-hour ride by transit because we were like teenagers, we didn't have cars.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy, but like we like, and the thing is, me, Ryan, Bernard, and Ahmad, like me, right? Not everyone knows their names. Me, Rainex, Unknown 522, and IB, kind of like. Because we were like kind of getting good at the same time, and Europhoria was kind of part of that group for a bit too. Because we were all getting kind of good together, we put a lot of effort into like training together and making sure we could like practice together. And like we played millions of hours together. We practiced secondaries. We like just to get matchup experience. It was crazy. And eventually we replaced like the top players in our region, like Red Rudderer and Delorded One and so forth, as the best players. Like we climbed that ranking. And Cool Hat sometimes came out to our adventures, and he kind of like settled at like the 6th spot, I think, or 5th or something. I forget. It's been like way too long. I don't remember. But yeah, we climbed, and then once we kind of took over Toronto, then it was like, okay, now we got to start beating the Frenchies. Like we got to start beating the Montrealers. So again, like more grinding, more training together, more like, all right, we got to figure this out. Like Chester likes a back throw shine. How do we beat that? Okay, well he's giving up stage control. Like, so we can like push him with like more down tilts, F smashes. Like if it was a mod thinking about it, and they're like more forward airs. If it's like me thinking about it, like down smash, cover the roll too. And it's like that's kind of how we like did it. We were really systematic about it. And I don't know. Originally, Rain-X and Unknown came out on top. Like for kind of like our first season, I kind of hovered at the third spot a lot. I could sometimes beat Rain-X, but I had Unknown was like a huge style counter for me for like a really long time. He just bodied me.
Yeah.
His style was so good versus me, and he was just like, I hated playing him. It was so hard. But I also liked playing him because I was like, all right, this is really hard, but whatever. Yeah. We can do this. And I never did it. Like, I didn't do it for a really long time. I think there was one point where he was like 27-0 with me or something. It was
my gosh.
It was so bad. And like versus Rain, and then because Rain-X would beat him usually, I always got matched up against Unknown in winter semis. So then like the tournament would be like, okay, winter semis I play Unknown, then Unknown loses to Rain-X, then I play Unknown in losers finals. Lose to him, Rain-X wins a tournament. And I'm like, just please let me have Rain-X. Let's shuffle the seeds just one time. Like, please. Never happened.
And what year was this? Like,
it was like 2008, 2009. About that time. But I learned a lot about the Spacie's matchup from playing these guys. A lot. I really, really... To this day, I still really like those matchups.
Yeah. You're really good at them, and I always, keep you as an example of a person that just like, if I need to do a neutral and understand neutral, then I go to a KK match. So Revival Melees, right? I think we can move on to that stage of your career. Your crew is amazing. I think everybody at that point knows about Unknown and Rain-X. They're starting to know about you. People jokingly said that you were the Canadian Mewtwo King in 2009 because of your adherence to studying and analyzing the game.
It made no sense to me that people did not know things about the game they were playing. That was the weirdest thing about getting into this game. Like, I could deal... Okay, fine, like, honestly, everything else, all the other awkward things about being a teenager at that age, like, for me, finding out I was gay, finding out randomly that I had crushes on certain, like, other high-level players and things like that. Like, honestly, all of the awkwardness and gawkiness about being a teenager, like, those are all, I would all consider those secondary, because this community is pretty darn accepting of stuff. I would consider that all those things secondary to my confusion that literally, it seemed like 3 people in the entire universe knew anything about the game we were playing. I was like, this makes no sense. I was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like, because in Pokemon, if you don't know, like, what the common teams are, if you don't know what your checks and counters are, if you don't know how to break a wall, like, if you don't know these very concrete tactical principles, you are going to lose forever. But this game seemed to defy all of that. And I was like, this is weird. I don't get it. I did not get it. But, I was like, whatever, I'm gonna do this my way. They can tell me use your instincts as all they want. But screw that. I am going to learn. I'm going to learn the old-fashioned way. I'm going to study. I'm going to get better that way. I'm going to know what I'm talking about. I'm going to be able to build better strategies using that information. That's what I did.
Nice. So Revival Melees, how were those? How was your first experiences in the States? Presumably, I assume it was ROM 1.
No, it was actually Pound 3.
Oh, you were at Pound 3.
I was.
Wow. Today I learned something new about you.
I wasn't known as KirbyKaze back then. I had a different tag.
What were you?
Dragonhawk.
Oh my gosh! I think I remember that. I remember you telling me that. And then
I probably didn't. I hate that. That was my old net battle tag.
Yeah.
Like back in the day when I was still playing Pokemon. So.
How'd you do that, Pound? I have no idea.
I got eliminated in I didn't make it to round 3 pools because Darkrai lost to Corn by going Donkey Kong. So I was actually going to make it into 3rd round pools as the last seed, I believe.
Yeah.
But then because Darkrain lost to Corn, going Donkey Kong, I did not. I wound up being 5th seed because I think I had beaten Corn in the head-to-head, but then he had a set on me because of that.
Oh,
So I was
sucks.
I was like, drat. And then in first round pools, I advanced as 3rd seed. I beat everyone in my pool except for, I want to say Mike Hayes because he picked Poke Floats in the 3rd game. And I won. Oh, I lost to Azen, but I took a game off his Marth.
Damn.
And then we had 2 last stock games versus his Falco. That was my my first American experience. I was just like, afterwards I was just like, I remember walking up to court and I was just like, Azen is so good. How is he so good with every character? I don't get it. Because like I prepared for the Marth matchup and the Falco matchup. Like I loved those matchups back then. And then he just like, I beat his Marth like barely on Stadium, and then he goes Falco and I think he like JV2 stalked me and like 1 stalked me at like 50%, and I was just like, this guy's so good. Like, how is he so good? And I was like, oh, I suck. I remember playing PC Chris. I was in my next round pool had like PC Chris and Darkrain, and that was crazy. I remember Death comboing PC Chris a few times, but he wound up 2-stalking me twice. So I think I landed exactly like 5 hits between 2 games. Like 5 like actual hits between 2 games. And like I converted off them like pretty well, but I was just like, man, this guy's so freaking good at like not getting hit and hitting me. Like, how does he do it? I was like, how is he so dang fast? I swear, like, I thought Bernard was fast, and then I played PC, and I was like, nope.
Yeah. It's the latter, right? You get 4-stocked by somebody who gets 4-stocked by somebody who gets 4-stocked by somebody, and that's Melee in a nutshell.
I was like, man, this guy's like harder than Ryan, and I was like, I didn't think a Fox could be hard. Well, I knew a Fox could be harder than Ryan, but like, I wasn't prepared for it. I was like, deep down, I was like, all right, I'm ready for this. This is like out of the pro players, this is the one I want. And then he just bodied me, and I was like, nope, back to the lab. Need more data.
And then, so 65th, not the worst first national performance, and then you go to ROM. And ROM 2. So tell me about those 2 events.
ROM was neat. I don't think I actually did well at the first 2 ROMs.
Well,
like,
let's include Pound 4 in this, because these are your 3, like, you're probably not happy, but they're okay performances.
No, I was okay. I was actually really happy with Pound 4. But I'll go with ROM 1 and 2, I think, happened first. So let's go with those. So ROM 1 and 2, it was mostly just like the shock of playing like the American style, like the East Coast American style. Because like in Canada we're a little bit more aggressive. The East Coast is a little bit more conservative, and that really threw me for a loop. It was also kind of like my first experience with like some of my first experiences with like real like trash talking and stuff, because New York is loud.
Yeah.
New York is real loud. And like playing G Money when he's got like the New York Thunderdome behind him is like, that is stressful. Let me tell you something, that is stressful. So I don't actually think I beat anyone good at either of the ROMs. I might have beaten Scar or something. No offense, Scar. But yeah, it's like, I don't think I actually did much. Like, yeah. But the biggest thing that I did was I played Mewtwo King and Dreffin. No, not Mewtwo King. I played Dreffin in friendlies and I got completely bodied. And Dreffin, that was a high point for me because Dreffin was like my role model with Sheik. I love Dreffin. Which is weird, I know. But no, Dreffin was like the only Sheik that made any sense to me. So when I got like 4-stocked by him and 2-stocked by him in friendlies and just got like crushed, I was like, this is fun. I was like, I'm learning. I can do this. Because like I'd never played a Sheik that was just so. I never played a Sheik that chain grabbed. I never did like. It was so new. And then I played Dark, and Dark was like amazing, and he too owed me. But there was a lot of like exposure to styles and things that I hadn't seen before. So like it's kind of like after the ROMs, I kind of knew that my view of the game had to expand if I was going to survive. So that's what I did. Like my strategy started to get a little bit more sophisticated. Started to incorporate some of the things I learned about the styles there. Started to branch out and like I started making way more contingencies plans. Like even for things I hadn't even seen yet. I'd be like, well, what if they do this? So I learned way more about the characters in the game. Because before my focus had all kind of been on like the things that were in Canada, but like now I was like, oh, but there's all these other characters too that people could use. So what do I do about that? and what are their options, and what can they do? What's Jigglypuff's superpowers? I know she can go to sleep, and I know she's bad in like Ruby Sapphire metagame, but what about melee? What can she do? I was like, more research is required. That's what I did.
And then, so Pound 4 comes along, you get 33rd, not bad, but you know,
not bad, but great.
But then
that was a.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go.
And then I would say 2010, late 2010, 2011, you start breaking out. How do you feel at this point in time?
Honestly, I feel good because, like, I think Pound 4 was a turning point for me.
Why is that?
Because Pound 4 was brutal. Brutal in a way that no other tournament had been before, like, that I had been to. Because, like, the thing about Pound 4 is that, like, we kind of combined, like, you kind of took, like, every single competitively relevant player of the time, minus 5 or 10, and you stick them all in a room, and you're, like, 3 rounds of pools. But in the first round of pools, my pool was me, wife, and Everlasting Yeas, and then 3 randoms. Top 3 advance. I was like, this is hard. Like, this is a round 1 pool? Are you kidding me? Like, me, wife, and Yay? Like, wow, that's tough. I lost to wife. I beat Yay. This was before I was super good versus Peach, by the way.
Yeah.
So I lost to wife, beat Yay, beat the rest of the pool, wound up going into second round as a 2nd seed. Then, I think my second round pool was, like, me, Silent Spectre, Silent Wolf, Aniolus, and, Miztech, and then some other person. I was just like... I was like, I was a 2nd seed. Like, I thought I'd get, like, one of the middle of the pack pools. Like, this is tough. What the hell?
Yeah.
And then the 3rd round pool comes along, and I made 1st seed in the 2nd round, and it's, like, me, Reno, Uwa, Dreffin, Lovage, and Trail. And I was just like, what? I was like, because that's not only a tough pool for me, because, like, I have Dreffin in it, and an Ice Climber, but then, like, Lovage was good. Uwa's not bad. Reno's no slouch. I was like, how is this an easy pool? Like, what? I was flabbergasted. And I remember I made it through as, I think, 2nd seed, by counterpicking Peach versus Trail. And, like, once you go through something like that, once you do, like, everything in your power to win at, like, a tournament like that, I think your mind just opens up to, like, possibilities if it works. Because you just start seeing, like, you start taking more risks, and you start being more comfortable trying things. And I think that was a big, important lesson for me. Because it's just, like... Because, again, it's, like, breaking away from this kind of, like, narrow view of the game, and, like, just starting to see possibilities when you might not have seen possibilities before. Options where there might not be options that you'd originally consider. Like, you start looking for answers anywhere, and I think that's a huge part of competing.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think the crazy thing here, long story short, you play Zagetto, you lose to him in winners, and you play PP in losers round 1 for 3rd and 3rd.
I have, I don't want to talk about that set, and then, yeah.
Yeah.
I got bodied, but not talking about that set.
Okay, so we move on to ROM, right? Because this is where things start to come together, and kind of interesting. This is like a side narrative that was kind of happening in my head. I felt like you and PP were like the 2 budding rivals that were kind of rising in 2010. Would you kind of agree? Like, because we already established that Mewtwo King, J-Man, Hungrybox, and Armada were like the cream of the crop players. And
oh yeah, absolutely. Those were, in that era, those were our gods.
Yeah.
If you want that term.
And Shizwiz.
Oh yeah, and Shiz. Like, those were like our gods of that day.
Yeah.
Me and Kevin were kind of like... Kevin more so than me. We were kind of like on the cusp. One of us made it. Spoilers. Yeah. But I don't think we were ever really like rivals. Like, I really wanted to beat Kevin, especially after Pound 4. Like, after that tournament, I knew, like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to, like, live with myself if I don't beat this guy at least once. There's, like, a few reasons for that. Not just the fact that I lost badly, but it's also, like, we had to talk about that set after the tournament, personally, and, yeah, I don't want to repeat any of it here, because I hate joining on camera, but...
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So
He and I talked about it. So like the thing is, me and Kevin were like, Kevin had a similar learning style to me in that, you know, he takes in information, he outputs a strategy. Like he likes to plan, he likes to have strong basics, he likes to, you know, like that's how he works. Like you can see it in every facet of his play. So he and I spent a lot of time back then talking to each other and refining strategies together. And it's like me, Umbreon Mao, Cactuar, Druggedfox,
Sleepy K.
Sleepy K. Like there were a bunch of us, and like we all just kind of got together in our own kind of like groups or like clusters. And like I gravitated mostly towards like Druggedfox, Cactuar. Well, I actually kind of hung out with everyone, but like we kind of like gravitated towards like specific people that we felt like would be good influences on us and stuff like that. And Kevin was one of them for me, a big one. And I think that's kind of how people got the idea that we were like rivals or something. But no, we were just really good. We just talked a lot because we loved strategy. We loved learning. It was what we did.
Yeah. But like you guys were rising at the same time. So round 4 or round 3, you probably remember it. Who are some of those people that you beat in winners?
I don't remember. I don't remember. The only one that I remember is Dr. Peepee. Oh, Vans! I beat Vans. Go me.
And you beat Mango.
I beat Scorpion Master. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I beat his Falcon. It's not the same.
Well, I mean, you did it. But you know you get top 3 at this event, and this tournament included J-Man, Mewtwo King, Hungry Box. You actually outplaced Hungry Box and J-Man this event.
I know. It was crazy. I remember talking with Vans and MacD afterwards when we were playing friendlies, and they were like, we can't sleep on you. Like, they're like, if you can beat Peepee, you can do anything. And I was just like, really? I was like, I just thought he didn't know the Sheik matchup. And I was like, alright, whatever you say, Vans. And I was like, yeah, I beat, like, the guy who won the tournament, and then I lost to him.
And I think this is where we, like, all, like, put you as, like, the Sheik player to watch. Because, you know, at that time, like, Mewtwo King was kind of playing Sheik, but he kind of went through his, like, emotional breakdowns. I think you remember those times pretty well, where, like, I think he forfeits his one, like, Apexes. And so although Mewtwo King does well at that event, like, you know, he kind of goes on and off, played a lot of Marth, played some Fox here, and so you became the Sheik player to watch. And how did you feel, like, that? I mean, I'm not sure if you were under the impression of that, but you had a lot of fun.
Oh, I felt it. And trust me, like, that, knowing that I was the Sheik player to watch completely obliterated me at Pound 5.
Why is that?
I did not prepare for that tournament as well as I could. Because, like, I went in so cocky. I was like, yo, I beat Dr. Peepee. Like, I can do this. Like, I did not train as hard as I should have. I did not prepare for the right matchups. Basically, everything that I did that took me to, like, being able to do that, I completely abandoned. And I was like, because it was my first taste of, like, really being, like, good. And I was like, yo, I'm the shit. And then I lost to, like, literally every Fox player in bracket.
It was like Remen and who else?
Remen, Silent Wolf, and Pools, Siren. I got beat up by every single Fox player, and that's a matchup I like. I lost friendlies versus, and granted it's friendlies, but like I think I lost almost every single friendly to Axe, most friendlies to Shroomed. I was just like, I suck. And then I kind of thought about it, and I was like, well, no, I didn't prepare. I went in with a bad mindset. I didn't bother, like, you know, scouting the field and, like, going through this process that I did at ROM and everything else. Like, and then kind of I went back to my Magic roots and Pokemon roots, where it's like, it doesn't matter if you can beat the very best players if you don't make it to them.
Yes.
I was like, so it's not just about being... I was like, this is a speed... I'm like, this can either be a long-term problem or it can be a speed bump. And it's up to me. I can beat people that are better than this, so obviously it's not a question of ability. It's a question of discipline and whether or not I'm willing to put the time in. And whether or not I'm willing to learn and possibly explore even more areas of the game that I might not be familiar with, might not be good at, and I have to be willing to develop those and get better.
Right.
So I was like, I did it.
You know, based on that experience, right, because you bring an important point, because after you win ROM 3, right, everybody's studying your videos, and to maintain being the best, or being, like, a top-level player, like, you have to constantly put in work. So did that give you, like, a sense of respect for, like, the people who have done it for years? Like, did that, like, give you... Because we look at, like, the Armadas, the Peepees, the mangoes, they've been, top of the class for like almost a decade. Like,
I just kind of assumed. Okay, this is kind of like, again, for me coming from a different video with like different competitive background. I just assumed everyone did preparation. Like, it was just part of like. It didn't. I'll level with you. It didn't give me more appreciation for the amount of time they put in. It gave me more appreciation for the efficiency that they came out with good stuff.
okay.
It was more like, man, these guys are brilliant. Like, they're coming up with better stuff than I am. Like, in the same amount of time. Because I just figured that like some people work more, some people work less. But I feel like we all have to work. And I was just like, it astounded me that these guys could, in the same amount of time that I do, like, came up with a strategy to beat one player, or like one type of matchup or one thing. They came up with one to beat like 6, and I was like, I was like, that's insane. So I knew I had to be faster. I had to start picking up on things quicker. That was kind of a big thing for me.
So
it wasn't good enough to like know how to beat the best player there, or have a plan versus them. You had to be able to deal with like every single player or every single like type of player you could encounter, and that meant I had to work faster. I had to work smart. It's not a question of working harder. It's a question of working smarter.
Right.
Yeah.
So Pound 5 is like a wake-up call, and then
yeah,
I think, after that, you had an amazing run of like 2 years where like you were constantly just placing right underneath the big 6 or the gods at that point. Impulse 5th behind just the gods. Apex 2012 5th. Big House 2 you get 5th. Revival Melee 5 you get 3rd. I think you get top 8 at Apex 2013, and at that point you were in the discussion of like we have these big 5 players. Leffen's not quite there yet, but the next person in was probably you or Hacks, to be honest. And what was going through it like that point, just where you were just so close to for so long, but you never quite broke in? How did that feel?
I was just like, honestly, I just looked forward to playing. I looked forward to playing the top players. You reached a point where the only people I really looked forward to playing were the people who were good and I hadn't beaten them yet, and the people who were better than me. So like the top like 5. And the people who I struggled with specifically, like S2J, for example. So it's like, the people that I really, really, really looked forward to were like the people I just loved the challenge. I lived for that challenge. That's when I had the most passion, because like, I remember in those days, oh my god, you remember that Rule 6 I went to? Were you there for that?
Yeah, I remember I went around San Francisco.
Yeah, you helped pay for my ticket, I think.
I did. Violence and I paid for your ticket.
Yeah. So at that tournament, I remember like the way you prepared, because I was a lot stronger and I was able to beat most people, like the vast majority of players, with just kind of like my base game plan, like the way I like my playstyle. My playstyle was good enough to beat like the vast majority of people. There were a handful of people who had the kind of things that like were good against me. Johnny was one of them. Is one of them, actually.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting down the night before the tournament, and I'd been playing Mango all week, so like I knew my skill was good. Like I knew I was warmed up and fired up, and I wasn't rusty. Like I'd been playing great, and I was like, okay, like I'd been playing great all week, and I was like, this is good. I'd been training with Zach, who was like a problem. I was starting to beat him in like friendlies and stuff in majority, partially because he takes forever to warm up. That's the caveat there, but it's just like I knew Johnny was going to be a problem. So I remember like kind of like scouring through like our matches from Big House, like the first Big House, and I knew that like, okay, again, John's about that said. If Johnny wants to talk about that, he can, but whatever. I remember scouring through the things that he was doing that were good against me, and I was just like, all right. I was like, there's got to be a weak point here somewhere. I noticed he'll really like the platforms, and this was pre-shield drop.
Yeah.
So I was like, he uses the platforms to avoid getting grabbed, so what can I do about that? And I was just like, and how does he, like, what are his tells? Like, what does he do? How does he leave the platforms? So I came up with, like, a plan specifically for him. Like, an entire playstyle specifically to beat him at that tournament. And it was always, like, an amazing feeling when it worked.
Yeah.
Like, the hours you'd spend, like, poring over a single, like, player, just coming up with like things that was like, if you've ever played Magic, there's something we call a silver bullet, which is like a specialized solution card for like a specific thing, like it might be artifact hate or whatever.
Yeah.
I had like a million of these for like a lot of players, like for Hungrybox, for Mewtwo King, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. But like I had plans. I had a lot of plans, and whenever one of them worked, and I won a set because of it, I was just like, oh, I feel so good. That was the thing I looked forward to, the planning, just like thinking about like how I'm gonna beat this person, and like mapping out the combat, and just coming up with like a solution to everything that they can do. And I think that's part of why, like, sometimes when I beat people back then, like, some of the games were, like, so lopsided.
Yeah.
Because it's just, like, sometimes you have a plan, and the plan works.
And sometimes, even today, we see that, R.I.P Ghatzu. That was disgusting. Context, Big House 5.
Oh, I honestly, all that was this. He kind of does the, his style versus Sheik is basically, like, okay, if I had to name his minigame, it would be, how many bad forward tilts are you going to do? Because all he does is keep distance, and all he does is corner himself, because he's waiting for you to do a bad forward tilt. So I was just like, alright. I was like, this isn't a bad plan, because forward tilt is in fact good versus Falcon.
Yeah.
So I can playing around the standard option. But what if I play the game, I'm never going to forward tilt? Then what do? You do not know what to do. That was it.
I felt so bad, because I was warming him up, and normally Ghatzu does pretty well against me, and then I found out a little secret about playing against him in particular, and I just ran at him, like, no forward tilt, and I insta-cornered him every time. And
that's what I did.
And I force-stocked him, and this was right before he had to play you, and then I didn't know how to cheer up Ghatzu. It was just like, hey, like, at least you got force-stocked here, and it's not going to happen up there. You got your, like, one bad game out. No.
You should have known better than to tell him something like that, especially if he's going up against me. Because if you could figure it, no offense, yeah, but if you could figure out like a really transparent like strategy, and again, kudos for you for figuring it out so fast.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, I'd figure that out. Come on.
Okay. So, Rule 6, what were the grand finals? You get second. You beat a lot of people. I mean, a lot of those matches looked really ugly for Callie, and I rooted for Callie because that's, you know, my pride and joy, but I also rooted for you. It's kind of like...
Yeah, I'm sorry about putting you in that position.
Yeah.
You should have had somebody eliminate me earlier.
But, you know, props to you. So you have this marvelous run, right? Countless top 8s. You were like the Shroomed and Plup before Shroomed and Plup existed. In my opinion, the guy that always, you know, like, who's gonna make top 8? Mango, Armada, Hungrybox, PP, Mewtwo King, who else? Probably KK. And then I'd probably say, yeah, you're probably right. And then 2013 happens. You take a year break. We won't go into the details of it, but you know, you don't go to tournaments anymore for like almost a good year. Am I right or wrong? Was that the...
Yeah.
And then you start coming back. And then how did that feel? Because it's hard to take a year break now. How did you try to get back into, you know, game shape?
Honestly, I just played a lot. I think my process on how I rejoined was really not as refined as it was the first time around. Like, I didn't spend as much time researching matchups as much as I did in the past. I'm not sure if that's because we moved away from, like, Smashboards and stuff to, like, Facebook groups and whatever. But yeah, that was, it was different. Like, it was more... I felt more isolated, I guess, from kind of, like, the community. And I really didn't... My one regret is I did not try to reach out to the people who... Kind of like my, colleagues, I guess.
Right.
For, like, theory and stuff. I didn't try to reach out to them nearly as much as I should have. Because it wasn't as convenient to do so, but that's, like, on me. That is definitely on me. You're responsible for your performance, and I really did not internalize that as well as I could have.
So the second time through, did you have the same fire? Like, because it seemed like the way you described 2008 to 2011, and sometimes I would talk to you, and you'd be like, you know, I have to win. Like, I'm going to find a solution to this, like, no matter if it kills me. Like, I felt like you had that attitude when I first met you. Didn't quite see that in the past couple years. You would see...
But he dropped a bomb on us. Melee HD is coming.
Oh my god!
No, it's not. It wasn't there. I liked the game, and I think the reason I came back was because I felt the way I got disconnected from it wasn't right, and I wanted to keep playing, and I wanted to like enjoy myself and see just kind of like. But I really didn't. I don't think I did not push as hard as I needed to stay competitively relevant. Certainly, had some had some good performances, beat some good people, but nothing like I used to.
Did you
And
just?
I think the drive just wasn't there.
So would you leave like? So, you got some ninth places at regionals, which probably weren't KK level performances. I feel like if you go to regional, KK should be getting top 5. That's my expectation of you, just out of respect. You don't quite get those. You get a couple ninth places, I believe, at next episode. Super sweet. And then summer happens in 2014. You get 25th at MLG and 17th at Big House. 2010 KK would have been upset about that and said, went back into the lab. But what was were you just like top 32 is good, or 17th
Well,
is,
okay.
yeah.
The thing about that is, on some level, I knew that the environment was a lot harder, so I think I adjusted my expectations a little bit lower, which I'm not sure was a good move. I think I kind of was like, all right, the environment's harder. Let's go. Let's have a good time. Let's try to beat. I remember when I lost to who did I lose to in winners at that? Pew's Fox. Pew's Fox at MLG. That's who it was.
Yeah.
I remember when I man, I blew that lead. Holy God. I remember when I lost to him. I was just like, I was a little salty. I was surprised at how salty I was, but I wasn't. It wasn't the same way that I used to be, where it's like, oh my God, like I can do this. Like, what is wrong with me? Like, back to the lab. Like, I was just kind of like stewing in it. It wasn't the same. And then I remember going through like some people in losers bracket, and then I came to SBAT, and I was just like, all right, I'm not going down here. Like, no, I'm not leaving this tournament without at least beating at least one good person. Like, not happening. And I think the fire came back for like a little bit, and I think it followed me into the set with Shroom, but then Shroom just outplayed me straight up. I think it came back for like a little bit. It was just like, and then when it happened, I was like, okay, like let's put some more effort back into. Afterwards, after MLG, I was like, okay, this isn't horrible. I beat one good person. It's improved. It's not like it's better than beating 0 good people. So it's still doable. I'm like, okay, we can do this. Just gotta like get back in the lab. I think I started like putting more effort in again. Started studying players a little bit more, making sure I knew their tendencies and things, like all the things I used to do. I started doing that for like a little bit. It wasn't with as much finesse, though. I don't think.
And then you get a couple of 7ths, and then we're full loop. We've covered like pretty much the full history of you. And do you think the fire will ever come back, or do you feel like now that
I don't know.
You're 27 now, that you feel
get out of here? No, yeah, I'm turning 26 in like a couple weeks though. So.
Oh, you're 20. Okay, for some reason, because it's your amazing KK88, I kind of assumed. So you're getting a bit older in the years, and you've done Melee for a good while. You were arguably a top 5 player for a good stretch of it. You've won some tournaments. You've had some great moments. Do you just feel like you're satisfied with your legacy that you've left as a player?
A lot of the things that I really wanted to do with Sheik were kind of framed in relation to what people told me she couldn't do. Like when Mewtwo King and Amsa told me that you needed a backup character for Hungrybox, for example. Like back in 2011. Remember when Hungrybox was like beating every single Sheik, like they were nothing, like 4-stalking them and stuff?
Yeah.
It's like, they told me that couldn't be done. That was probably the most powerful driving motivation that I had to learn that matchup, because I was like, no, you're wrong. Like, Sheik is so good. Because, I come from Kirby. Like, I know what it's like to have unwinnable matchups. Sheik does not have unwinnable matchups. So I was just like, this is doable. We just have to figure it out. So, a lot of what I think a lot of what I did back then was partially to try to prove to people that Sheik could do certain things. Like that she could combo in a really cool way. That she could, that you didn't have to like do this like optimized string or like this simplistic string, that she was capable of this really sick stuff. She could kill off the top just as well as Fox in a lot of positions, a lot of matchups. I just wanted to show people that the character was a lot stronger or more flexible or more interesting than people said she was. I think that's all I really wanted. And I wanted to show people that there was more ways of playing her than just what we had. And I think I've done that. I think that's its motivator.
Based on what you just told me now, would you say that Apex 2812 against Hungrybox and Winners was your proudest moment then? Or was that the one set that you would say like you're most proud of? If not, then what is it?
No, it's probably that one. Because it's like, I remember, because we didn't have a reference point for that matchup, and I remember like giving up briefly on it too. Then I talked to PP about it a little bit. I asked him some questions, got some feedback on him on like what he thinks. I was like, put yourself in my shoes. Like, what would you do with Sheik against Jigglypuff, like hypothetically? Because I'm like, you're really good versus Jigglypuff. Like, I've seen you play that matchup. You're amazing. So like, what can you give me that's applicable to Sheik for her weaknesses and stuff? Like, what can we let's brainstorm a bit. And he was like, okay, well, I was like, even though you can't really like combo her that hard, like she's pretty weak positionally because she only has moves that are good directly above her and laterally.
Yeah.
That was kind of something I hadn't considered before, and it was kind of there was no one like Hungrybox, so preparing for him was like really, really hard because it's kind of like preparing for Axe in a way, and that there's nobody else who's like even close to like their level with the character, so it's all theory and planning, and you kind of like you can run simulations with people who are weaker than them, but they're just simulations. Like you can try to structure the match so it's like played the way they would play, and I did that a lot, but it's still not the same. I remember the first thing that I noticed when I played Hungrybox, and like the first time I played Hungrybox ever at Apex 2012 was just how fast he was with the character. I was like, man, his like control of the interruptible frames. I was like, he's probably doing every action like 4 frames faster than like every other Jigglypuff or something, like following up on them. And I was like, that threw me off because I was like used to like it doesn't sound like much, but if it's 4 frames on every single action, every single back air, every single jump, every single whatever, it adds up real fast.
Right.
So he was just doing so many more things, and they were so much like his positioning and like how he used hitbox drag and all this other stuff was like so much more. There was so much more finesse, and then I was like, I got worried for a second. I was like, what if my plan doesn't work? And then I was like, nah, it's gonna work. Just believe. I spent so many hours with idea, like weeks, just coming up with exactly what I was gonna do against him and how I was gonna play that match, and like where I was gonna go and what I was gonna ban. And I actually had a controller malfunction the second game on Dreamland. I was kind of like worried about that, but then I did a reset and it worked fine the third game, and then I wound up 2-stalking him, and I was like, yes. I was like, all the months, like all the weeks and maybe a month or 2 of like prepping for that, making sure I knew everything I could about the character, making sure I had like rehearsed as much as I could. It all seemed worth it at the end because I was like, I did it. I remember Mewtwo King walking up to me afterwards and being like, how? I was just like, just do it. I don't know, down smash more. Something like that. Stop trying to grab the crouching Jigglypuff. I don't know, Jason, you tell me.
Man. I remember like being so excited because, I was in that boat where I thought it was like still doable, but like I needed evidence like that at the very top level that it was possible, and I still believe that she can do it. Any other moments you're proud of? What are your other 2 to 3 moments that you're proud of in your Melee career as a player?
I think, okay, when I played Westballz at Rule 6, there came a moment in the second match where I was just like, Because I noticed that he had he likes to hold down and push the B button when he's getting hit by Sheik, because that is a good habit.
Yeah.
Counter Shine is very good against her. Came a moment where I was like, kind of like, all right, I'm gonna win this match, but like, I don't want to like, I want to like do something. I want to win more efficiently. Like, I want to do something better than what I'm doing, because like the standard stuff is like, my standard stuff is working because he seems to have trouble like finishing his combos. Like, he does like 150 damage to me or like 100 damage to me, but then like hitting the finish seems to elude him, and then I wind up hitting him with something and kill him. So I'm like, okay, so how am I getting hit? I'm getting counter shined a lot. So I'm like, so what could I do about this? Then I kind of like thought back to like kind of my archive of like all the Sheik things I knew, and I was like, what would Dreffen do? I just down smashed him like 6 times or something, and landed this sick combo because of the down smashes. And it's crazy, and it was complete garbage, but it beats Countershine. And I was just like, all right, just believe in Dreffen.
I think one of the greatest contributions of you was how you were a mentor to a lot of Sheiks, and you contributed a lot on Smashboards. I mean, if Cactar and PP were to the Falco and Marth boards, then you were the guy for the Sheik boards. And I feel like you have a great joy in teaching.
I do. I love teaching.
So now that the topic of coaching and analysts has become a thing, it seems like you yourself, you've fought your battle scars, you've fought the wars. If the coaching thing gets big or the analyst position gets big, would you ever consider being an analyst for a top player?
Sure. I think one of my favorite moments in the game was, remember when you were playing Eisengo on Apex?
Yeah.
And like, you called me over, I remember this, and you were just like, KK, help me. And I looked at this, and I did not look at him, I just looked at you. And I was like, no, that's cheating, like, it's coaching, like, it's mid-set, like, Tafo, what are you doing? And then they think you just pointed at him, and like he had so many supporters, and people were like, explaining things to him,
dude. He had 4 coaches mid-match against me.
I know. And then I'm looking at the screen, and I look back at you, and I look at him, and I'm just like, all right, well, I guess if they're doing black magic, I guess we can do black magic. Like, I don't think. Let's get some Avada Kedavra up in this bitch. So I'm like, I come over to you, and I'm just like, all right. And I think I gave you like a game plan and told you what to ban and like how he's gonna like deal with the game plan and what to do about it and like some other stuff. And then you just like completely annihilate him, and I'm like, yes. It's like, go Tafo, go.
No, like I think you came at game 2, because game 1 I was winning, and then he kept adapting to me like really fast, and it was getting ridiculous because they were speaking in their language and like telling him, and I didn't understand fully what they were saying, but I could tell just enough for them to be telling him like, don't do this or do this, or Tafo's doing this, and like he was adapting so fast that I just couldn't keep up, and that's when I called you.
Yeah, I know, and I wound up giving, and because they were doing that, like, only because they were doing that, like, I'm not a fan of mid-set coaching, although if I get that in order for me to have a coaching position, I might have to adjust my views on that, or be more flexible about that.
Yeah.
He's a psychologist, right? Some people might get that. Anyway, yeah, no, I remember that set, and that was actually one of my favorite moments, just because, like, I remember after we talked, you just, like, went to work, and I was like, I'm happy. This pleases me.
I remember being happy that you were happy, and I was just like, yes, like, I made my sensei happy.
Senpai was very happy.
I mean, who would be the people that you would most likely, who would be, like, the people that you would want to coach the most, like, that are, like, top 15 to top 20 level?
The people who I'd want to coach most.
Or be an analyst or whatever. A dedicated analyst. Like, let's say you got paid for this. Like, let's say like a big esports team, all the top 20 picked and had like esports team, and they had a budget for you, and they were asking you like, KK, coach this player. Like, who would you most want to be paired up with in the top 20?
I mean, I know Sheik the best out of the cast, so ideally a Sheik player. I know it's not exactly an exciting answer.
Yeah.
But I'd want to coach somebody who I am strong with and who I know as a player well. I would go with Shroomed. I'd go with Shroomed because I think because he and I have talked like I remember when he was first getting into Sheik, he used to ask me like questions a lot. I remember he asked me for like coaching advice like before he played Hungrybox at Apex 2015. I kind of walked him through the matchup and like gave him some pointers and just kind of like framed it. I was like, all right, so you're creating an obstacle course for Jigglypuff. And depending on what type of obstacle course you create, she's going to have to try to get around it or go through it in a certain way. And when you pick up on how she's positioning herself to go through your obstacle course, she leaves herself open because she's in the air. Or because she's on the ground and she's like not crouching or something. Or like wave dashing because she's trying to go around it. And like those are your openings. So like you kind of like you guide her through your wall and then you change the wall on her. To get into like snag her. That's how you win the matchup. And you can use your needles to force her to interact with the obstacle course. You can use your speed and your better mobility to be very flexible about how you construct your obstacle course. But ultimately, this isn't like one of Sheik's assets is her walling. One of Sheik's assets is her range. So Jigglypuff does not have a good way of contesting this directly. She has to kind of play around it and predict, or try to get you to play a lateral game, which you can avoid because you can just not do it.
Yeah.
So like this is how you do the matchup, and he played the matchup like exactly. He played it amazingly. Like it was stellar. I was so impressed with him. I was so happy. I just wish that he held it together the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Hungrybox definitely shifted gears to. He definitely went into clutch mode.
Yeah.
And got them like once he started getting some of those rests and some of those like bear chains and things, like I was just it's over. I was like, because Shroom isn't gonna mix up. I was like, because one of the ways one of the things he was doing is he was kind of going over Shroomed.
Yeah.
I was like, in this position you run under her and then she can either go side or down or like stall there, and there's like a mini game where like you're underneath her, kind of like what Fox does, except with Sheik because you're slower in the air. You're not quite as you're slower in the air, but you have more range. So it's more like you try to make her fall on something, and you can get some like really really juicy hits that way. Like you can get like down smashes while she's DIing off to the side, stuff like that. Like those kinds of plays can like get some nasty kills on her. But he didn't know that facet of the mix-up, and I was just like, drat. I was like, well, it was good. He knew, like, I was like, you know what, I was like, but, and obviously Shroom is better than me, but, and there were facets of the matches he played better than I would have, but there was, in the last 2 games, when he was just like, when Hungrybox started doing that, like, thing, it was something that I was good against, and I was like, he doesn't know the answer to this. I was like, I'm sad. I was like, I'm sad now.
What do you think about the Druggedfox and Plup Sheiks?
They're very, very, very streamlined, and they're very, very, very like strong. When they're on point, they're like crazy. Like Plup seems to always be on point, except for like that one time he lost like Waffles or something. Otherwise, he's crazy consistent. It's one of Sheik's superpowers, honestly. Like the way that she forces you, like the fact that her execution is. It's still like high in some ways because like her timings are kind of tight because she still has like a quick jump and she still has like kind of a tight dash dance and stuff like that, and some of her ledge stall stuff is like especially with like ledge dash recoveries and all this other stuff, like it's plus tech chasing reactively is like you have fewer chances to screw that up than you do you have fewer chances to correct a combo done with a knockdown than you do when you're doing a launch combo, just because of the nature of how like air combos work in this game. So she does have like she does actually have a pretty high execution. Some of her links are pretty tight too. Yeah. But the fact that her tools are so non-interactive, like they're so resilient to like things like Smash DI minus like Mistech. With the exception of Mistech, like her tools are so resilient to things like Smash DI that if you're just on point with her, like you can just be so abusive and so just inhibit the opponent's ability to interact with you so effectively. Like there's not much that interacts well or interacts at all with high damage grabs and heavy and launch moves. Like There isn't. Like, and single hit launch moves, like, there aren't. So if you just respect the percents games, which they do very, very well, especially Druggedfox. Druggedfox, he knows percentages, like, man, his percent. I thought, like, I remember back in the day when I was learning percentages, I thought I was cutting edge. No, Druggedfox is like, Druggedfox puts me to shame in that regard. And he, like, he knows it. Like, he knows every single percent. For, like, when things go online, when the opponent loses certain options on counterplay. It's really, really, really strong. When he's on point, it's crazy. But they wind up having to do more because they're, like, very more methodical. But I think that you can build that consistency by just, like, practicing it. So I think overall it's overall, like, the most competitive style.
Right.
Definitely.
And speaking of people at the top, what would you, because, you know, you have insight enough that I feel that you can speak into this. What does Mew2 King need for a Sheik to be competing with the top 6?
Mew2 King relies too much on his bag of tricks.
What does that mean?
Mew2 King has a big bag of tricks where it's like, you know how I kind of had silver bullets for certain players, like certain styles, and like you have like specialized and solutions for certain things. Mew2 King is like that, except even more extreme than I was, because when he gets like that one hit, he takes it further, and he knows this. So when he's when he's rolling his Sheik, especially versus somebody who's more likely to crack under pressure, who's more likely to, you know, give him the respect he deserves, or not know, you know, the entirety of his trick bag, he can just abuse somebody for their lack of a better word, preparation. But against somebody like the top 6, where he's like exhausted his trick bag against them like numerous times, he's played them 1,000,001 times, they play him regularly, they know the ins and outs of the character better, they've done their homework more, doesn't work as well. And then these guys also punish harder, so like you can't get away with as much. One of the things that I always maintained about fighting Mew2 King specifically is that he has, because of his tendency to play little rock paper scissors games with you, and this is something I learned out really fast, like after the first time I played him at ROM, I think ROM 3, and he just completely obliterated me. I realized that like his punishment game, he can take any single hit he gets on you, or like 90% of the hits he gets on you, and he can take it to something. And I'm like, but he takes a lot of risks by doing that, because he does throw around moves. So I was like, okay, so if I'm gonna beat this guy, or start taking games from him, or deal with him properly, I have to be able to bait those, and when he misses and gives me that like hit, even if it's just a light tap, I have to turn that into a pressuring situation, or a straight up conversion, where I can do like at least 40 damage a pop to him. Like that's the bare minimum. If you can't do that to Mew2 King, you just won't, then you have to win too many exchanges against him.
Yeah, and it's like rock, paper, scissors, and eventually he wins those rock, paper, scissors.
You know what it is? It's rock, scissors, dynamite, where scissors beats dynamite, but not really. Because if dynamite goes off, you just die. Like, you lose the entire stock. Like, you need to win, like, several hands, and he doesn't. It's just... So, you need to take that advantage away from him. And the top players, because they're so consistent with their punishment, too... Like,
they have a dynamite, too.
Huh?
They have a dynamite, too, then.
Exactly. Like, the thing you gotta remember about, like, Mew2 King's punishment game is that while it's really good, it's not unique to him anymore. At least not at the very highest levels. And that's something that he hasn't really... I don't think that's something he's internalized. Like yeah, on occasion, Mew2 King will just have games where he just obliterates Mango or something because he hits him 4 times. But that happens to him, too. Like, there are games where, like, Leffen hits him 4 times first.
Yeah.
On FD. And he just explodes. Like... When any of them are playing good, you cannot be like, it's the same reason why I don't think I'm competitively relevant anymore. I gamble too much. I think Mew2 King gambles too much, and because his punishment game is better, and I think because he takes better gambles, it doesn't catch up to him quite as much when he's playing Sheik. But against like the very highest level of play, it does a lot. And I think that's why him rolling Sheik against a lot of them, especially when they're on point, is like really, really dangerous for him. Which is not, and again, his Sheik is like incredible. It's so much better than mine. It does so many things better than any other Sheik in existence. And my God, it is the greatest noob slayer in the entire universe. Like, no noob slayer will ever be, except for maybe like, I don't know, a really good wobbler. No noob slayer will ever be as good as Mew2 King. But the top 6 aren't noobs. Like, they're not.
What do you think about Mango? in 2015 and moving forward, and because not only have people caught up to Mewtwo King or starting to catch up to Mewtwo King, people are surpassing Mango, and it's becoming a worrying trend. As I personally am a Mango fan. What does he have to do?
Same thing that I would have to do. He has to optimize a little bit. That's it.
Do you think he's close?
Mango's ability to materialize hits out of nothing, like out of thin air, out of these weird positions, and his the way I always view Mango is that he's very anti-metagame. Like, I feel like a lot of the things that he does are designed to counter how people like. I remember when I was playing him, back when I play him in friendlies sometimes, and we're doing Fox Sheik or something. There's one interaction that comes up a lot, and I always have to shoot myself. I always shoot myself in the head. Well, not actually, but I always kind of mentally go, "Oh, I'm an idiot," when it happens. There's something he does with his shield where he stops outside my grab range, but inside a point where it looks like he kind of threatens with his shield and his running shines and things in a way that it's really good against the standard defensive options. It's very anti, he plays through his rushdown a lot. He's really good at that. But I feel sometimes he just drops. I feel he sometimes just drops things, trying to go for something really, really sick. And yeah, I honestly the Swedes don't. That's honestly the difference. The Swedes, even Hungrybox lately, they just won't. If you give them an inch, they'll go a mile. They don't. If you give them a freebie, if you let them live, that's a whole other hit you're gonna need on them. That's just brutal. At this point, that is brutal.
Mm.
I don't think it's I think that we're reaching the point where punishment game is just as important as neutral game.
Yeah.
It's not enough to be stellar at one anymore. You need both perfect. You need both at an incredibly high ability. It's not enough to just excel at a singular facet anymore.
They multiply off of each other too. So if one's it's kind of crazy. I had advanced metrics on the top players in their punish game that I need to normalize somehow. But yeah, I think I totally agree with you. And I only see the Swedes continue to be the best until other people start catching up and working out both the muscles to be really strong as theirs.
I wouldn't count out Hungrybox and Plup.
Hungrybox and Plup.
I think that those two, Hungrybox keeps pushing. The thing about Hungrybox is he always comes up with a new plan. My God, that guy. The most impressive thing about him, other than the fact that he took a character who's only played one way and he found all these other ways of playing her.
Yeah.
He for all intents and purposes, he's playing Wigglytuff. The most impressive thing about him is he comes up with new technology every dang tournament. Beginning with planking Armada. It's not something new, but he'll do anything. He'll try any strategy to beat these guys. And I think that there's a will to win in him. He's all about, there's something about him that's just I don't think you can ever even when he's in a slump, I don't think you can ever really count him out, just because he'll do anything for the W. And that killer instinct is so critical to being a top player, even though his character is more limited than the others, even though Jigglypuff's not as good, even though she has more exploitable weaknesses and this, that, and the other thing. There's something about him that just seems to drive him forward anyway. The things he comes up with, camping camping in the air, using his air, the way he positions himself, and he adapts. He's no longer that he's not a lot of the weaknesses that I know that Mango used to criticize him for. I really feel a lot of them are not there anymore.
Mm.
I think that he's developed a lot as a player. It's hard to see though because Jigglypuff's all subtleties, but
yeah,
no, he's a monster. He's really, really scary.
And then you mentioned Plup.
I think Plup is just Plup is similar. He's just got that I'll do it to win. But then I think he's got a little bit more flexible than Druggedfox. Like, the thing about Druggedfox is, like, even if Druggedfox is having the worst day ever, he's still going to go for the reaction tech chase. He's still going to, like, push himself to do things, even though, like, there might be a easier solution, I guess, but, like, a less elegant one. I don't see that from Plup. Plup has a flexible sensibility to him.
He's a little bit more realistic, given the exact moment he's in.
Yeah, like when he's missing the tech chase and he just knows that somebody's gonna like this is the secret of my tech chasing back when I used to do it with the up smash, but like there comes a moment and every Spacie has a tell. Every single one of them. I don't remember any of them, but like they all have a tell. They do something different when you throw them that indicates they're gonna tech stand. Like they're gonna do something. They're gonna do it. And you can kind of, it's not necessarily something they don't know on the screen. It might be something you kind of like feel in the air or like next to them. Like you feel
frustration.
A shift, like you feel a shift in like how their mood is or something. That's the tell. Like you just feel it off them, like their aura or whatever. I don't really believe in auras, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Like and they're frustrated or they're panicking or they're getting nervous, and like for like a Lucky or an Alex19, their tell is I just want to get out of this combo. I want to get up immediately, and the quickest option to that is to get up and tech in place.
I noticed with Eggum specifically, and actually Fruit Loop too, it's like there comes a point where they stop testing your reaction time if you just get them enough times, and then that's when they tech in place, because they stop testing your ability to get the roll, and they start going strictly to test your reaction time. I had that backwards earlier, but they start testing your reaction time, understanding that they're in the middle of the stage. The fact that they're going to... Ice did this to me too in Cruise, like, at least for one stock, but then he mixed it up better, but, and I just was kind of, like, feeling myself because I'm an idiot. But, yeah, there comes a point where they're just testing your reaction time to be like, he'll mess this up eventually. Nobody does this, like, perfectly. Or, like, they might think you'll mess it up, and then you get them, and then you kill them, and then you're like, awesome. And then that conditions them, because then they're like, it kind of like, the cycle kind of loops back into itself, because then they're like, oh god, I can't tech its place anymore. Like, he's covering it, so now I have to start rolling again. And it kind of feeds into itself. It's kind of weird. And I understand why people don't like tech chasing that way. I get it. Because there is a little bit of guesswork. There is a little bit of an element of this is not 100% guaranteed, and you worked this hard to get a grab, so you want things that are guaranteed. But sometimes you're not on point, and I feel like Plup has the cognizance to be aware of that, but he's also got the killer instinct to like also do the tech chase properly when he knows he's on.
Yeah.
So there's like a flexibility there, and I think that's really, really critical with someone like Sheik, because I think one of Sheik's superpowers is how flexible she is.
Right.
Not playing that. I don't know why you wouldn't.
We haven't. You didn't leave a name in there. And we've talked about pretty much every top player, but this one. Why didn't you mention PP in that list?
I love PP. I don't want to say anything. I don't. Oh my god. We've mentioned him, but I don't think there's. Well, what do you mean? Why haven't I mentioned PP?
Okay, so we mentioned Mango and Mutiking's issues. And then we talked about, and then I alluded to, well, the Swedes seem to be jumping over everybody, and then you mentioned Plup and Hungrybox in this conversation. So we mentioned 6 of the perceived top 7, but you left out PP.
Oh, Kevin, I think needs to I don't know what he needs to do.
Just get back into the mode, I guess.
Kevin's a bit of a mystery to me. I don't fully understand. Despite all the time I've spent talking to him and stuff, I don't think he's in a weird way, I think he's the one I understand the least. It's kind of weird, but
what do you mean? Like personality-wise, playstyle-wise, like
just how he thinks and stuff.
Okay.
Which is not to say I'm an expert on the others, but it seems to be more of like a pattern with them, I guess. Like Kevin seems to have a lot of ups and downs. Like a lot of ups and downs. I guess the thing I would say about him, because I don't want to talk. Okay, on a mechanical level, he needs to punish harder. His edge guarding needs to be cleaner.
Okay.
I feel like fundamentally he's incredibly strong, especially at neutral game. I think he's like probably got arguably the best neutral game in the world when he's on, but he does not have the best punish. He's not close to the best punishment game when he's on. He messes a lot of things up, drops a lot of edge guards. I think his recovery is also kind of it's not. I don't think. I feel like it doesn't have the same finesse as some of the others. So it's mostly like things that have to do with how he's like dealing with being hit, or when he's got a hit, like when he's got a hit on certain opponents, when he's got a hit on certain opponents. But I feel like everything leading up to the hit, or vice versa, is like insane. I think that's his like superpower.
So like if you fuse Mewtwo King and PP, then they would be super god, is what you're saying.
That would be terrifying.
Like if you take the best elements of both of them.
That would be horrifyingly good. That would be That would, if you could. Well, actually, I'd fuse Armada. I'd fuse him with Armada, but yeah, basically, yeah. Like that would be scary.
Well, we'd fuse everyone with Armada if we could, because Armada's.
Yeah, but if I have to isolate somebody for punishment, strictly punishment, it would be Armada.
Yeah.
Armada's punishment is like, ugh, so good.
So we go to this point. We've talked about like the 6 or 7 players. You know, maybe Plup, makes that jump next year. Still has some glimmers of inconsistency, as you've mentioned. You've flirted with the top 5. What's the difference between the haves and the have-nots? And I'm not saying that like you as a top 5 borderline player is like a have-not, but we've talked this narrative for 4 to 5 years now of, will J-Man make it in? Is Hax gonna break in? Is Axe gonna break in? Is Shroom gonna break in? Is Pew Pew gonna break in? And we've had people just come so close, and it just gets stuck in like the number 7 to 20 range. Like, and they've worked hard. They played this game for years, yet like they're not.
I think a certain amount of it is talent. I'm not gonna lie. I think some people can't do it. Like, can't get good. I hate to say it but it's like, I don't think everyone can get good. I used to think that everyone could, but I don't think that anymore.
So what made that decision? What kind of changed your point? Because I'm one of the biggest optimists in the world, and like I would be the one telling like mini Tafo like, yeah, just like put your heart to it, put in the work and discipline, and you can do it. Like,
well, I guess it depends on like what we're talking about. Like, can anyone become a top, say, 20 player? Obviously, if we make the oh god, I don't remember the word.
Can everybody be top 5? I guess. I mean, it's a fair question, right? I don't have an answer.
Can everyone be top 5? No. I do not believe that.
So what's the elements? We've defined talent. What does that mean?
Talent means like, I think you need to be able to like because it's not. I feel like the game moves so fast, so quickly. You have to be able to move that quickly. Like, and I mean like you have to be able to like move with the metagame. You have to be able to keep up with the metagame. There's a certain amount of that is just your ability to recognize patterns quickly enough. Think about the game in a way that's efficient. It's like how some people I don't think are cut out to like. It's like how some people I don't think are cut out for certain fields. I think this is a really tough field. It requires you to do a lot of this game has a weird structure to it. There is a structure, but it's kind of looser. So you have to be able to make sense out of kind of like what may seem like kind of abstract fighting. And that's tough. That is really tough. It requires pattern recognition. It requires reflexes. You might not have like a good good reaction time. I know Mewtwo King's talked about that, and how much work he's had to do to overcome that. And we actually see him like moving away from some of the characters that demand reaction time as part of their punishment. Like, he's not playing Sheik as much, for example, against some of the top players, just because like you don't have a certain level of reaction time. You can't. So I guess that would be what I mean by talent. Like, your physical ability to react to things quickly enough, to process patterns quickly enough, to think quickly enough. if you can't do that, if your body's natural rhythm is just like too slow, you're out. I'm sorry, but no.
I mean, do you think the main thing then, because let's say you have like a really hard test, right? You give people an hour to do it. Let's say it's like 100 problems. Only a small fraction of people could do it, but you give the whole world like a year, and you give them like, you can use any resource you want. They would eventually learn. So do you think that one of the biggest issues is like how much you have to process and evolve your game over a limited amount of time in a race?
Exactly. And know what? The thing is, the people who are just... I see what you're saying, but the thing is, the people like the Swedes who are like left in an armada, who have a natural disposition, I think, towards the skill set you need to be successful and like lead in this game, they will put in the same amount of time because they don't stop. They like, yeah, they take breaks here and there, but like everyone needs a break here and there. But when they're on the grind, when they're working, they do not quit. And they will put the same amount of time to push and get further ahead as somebody who maybe doesn't have the same natural affinity as them that they might need just to keep up. And when you figure that they're putting in the same amount of time, but one group is like still learning and developing way faster than the people who are just trying to keep up.
Yeah, there's going to be some difference no matter whatever variable you call it, utility, skill,
whatever name you put to it. If the group with all the natural advantages puts in the same amount of work as the group without all the natural advantages, the group with the natural advantages is going to come out on top.
Yeah,
they're going to push ahead. They're going to keep moving forward. The gap will continue to widen. That's how it is. And you know what? It might not happen every time the metagame undergoes a shift, because sometimes the metagame kind of like, comes to a standstill for a bit. Sometimes there's not much useful technology that's found in like a stretch of a few months. And in that period, the people without the natural inclination, or whatever we're calling, whatever name we're using for it, those people can, make up the ground a little bit. But I think it's like a combination of talent. To get back to your original question, it's a combination of talent, your work ethic, because that's kind of what we've been alluding to.
Yeah.
Like you have to stay on the ball. You can't just, like, that was something that I was kind of something that I was definitely wishy-washy about was, I would sometimes put a lot of effort into making sure I knew exactly how to beat somebody, and sometimes I wouldn't. That is not acceptable. Like, you gotta be on the ball all the time. You have to know. I think Armada's biggest superpower, the thing that makes him such a powerful player, aside from being talented, but that's like kind of difficult to measure, like how much of it is just like his natural ability. But I would say that like the thing that sets him apart is just his work ethic. The fact that he will train and make sure he knows everything. There's not a single his game is so polished all the time. His bad performances in the hardest tournaments are like 4th. Like that's like the worst, like his worst performances after a retirement, after a break, or like when he's sick and dying is like 4th.
Right.
Like a Challenge 4 or like an EVO. That's his low. And I think a lot of that comes from work ethic and just the fact, like, his ability to put in what you need to be, like, he always, the feeling I get from him is he always puts in 110%. Even whether there's gas in the tank or not.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. So you need work ethic.
So we've established top 5. Yeah, like, most people are probably spending a lot of time, and then talent's probably going to differentiate, because you can only put in so much effort before, like, the person next to you with slightly more talent than you is putting their 100%, which will beat your 100%. To bring some line of hope, right, I'm doing a ranking list, top 100 players. Honestly, how many people in the top 100 have a good work ethic, do you think? If you were to just guesstimate.
I don't even know who's in top 100 right now.
I would probably be 90th, just to give context. So let's.
That does not help me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let's say top 25. How many of those guys? Let me get up the list, and I'll read it out to you so that it gives.
Okay. You could send it to me on Skype or something, or do you want them to hear it?
I can just read it off to you. So obviously, Big Five, Armada, Leffen, or Big Six,
Yeah.
Armada, Leffen, Mango, PP, Hungrybox, Mewtwo King.
Sinister 6, we got it.
And then we have the next people below them, in my opinion, but close: Plup, Axe, Westballz.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the rat race of Shroom, PPU, Lucky, SFAT, Silent Wolf, Hacks. We won't include Hacks because, he's kind of dealing with the injuries. MacD, Ice, SUJ, Hugs, You, Fly, Amsa, Lizrobe, Drug, The Moon, and let's toss a Nintendo in there because we...
I'm not even gonna lie, I'm surprised I'm still in there.
I mean, this is from the summer, and I'm pretty sure that your Apex performance got you in there.
Okay. I have me at like 40th right now, or like 35th, like 35th or something.
Okay, but out of those people that are, like how good are these people's work ethic in your opinion? I mean, they're clearly not like Armada level, right?
I don't know, and this is the thing that sucks. Like, I don't know any of them. I don't know most of them well enough to comment on that.
Okay, well,
the thing is, all right. If you asked me this like 2 years ago, well, not 2 years ago specifically, but like 3 years ago, I could tell you. Because that was when I was like way more communicative with all the other the other up and coming good players, and like I was like messaging them all the time and trying to but I've been drifting away for like quite some time now. I do not know.
Okay, so I'm gonna just throw out some assumptions in this equation. I think it's pretty fair to say that not everybody's going as hard as they can. I think that's a fairly reasonable statement. If we're gonna say that the work ethic has not maximized to 100%, like, I don't know, Koreans in StarCraft, right? That's like the extreme example of, yeah, talent. You need talent to compete with these people because they are already kicking your ass in work ethic. Where can a player get then if they put in 100%? Do you think?
That's a tough question because I don't think we've actually seen it. Because there's not enough. I don't think there's enough money in the game right now. Because there's not enough. It's not possible to make this your living unless you're basically top 6.
That's
or
fair.
Something like that. So I don't think we've ever actually seen it. So it's not. I can't tell you because it's never happened. My optimistic estimate would be I think that because there are still some matchups and things that are not fully developed, even though they're kind of solved, but not solved as they could be. There's still like some room for nuance and innovation and stuff like that. If you came up with a really good thing, I think you could still like kind of get the jump on the competition. I would be willing to go up to maybe top 15, top 20.
And that's assuming like you're going absolutely hard in the paint, like even harder than you did in your like studying days where you're just going all out and you're like borderline probably maniacal because like to get the drive of, in my opinion, when I look at this list, to even get top 10, you have to be like a maniac.
Dude, I spent like a month or two planning specifically how I was going to play against Hungrybox for the possibility that I might beat him in a set. That is how crazy I was about like back in the day. Like, that's what I did. And that's while I was like working part-time. That's while I was in school. That's not even close to like what people are capable of. I've seen people do crazy things. I've seen the impossible happen so many times that it's just like, at this point, like, impossible's whatever. With very few exceptions.
So, you allude to a sad point of Melee, and I'm just gonna hypothesize, extrapolate a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Only the top 6 are probably making money, and maybe some personalities are like probably making anything close to what I would deem a living wage to go full time in. Is that a big reason why you just kind of realize like you're stuck between two things? You have needs, you have to make money, you have to live, but there's also Smash, and juggling those two and not having the time and the resources to manage to compete, did that somehow play into this decision of like, let's just go to retirement?
Not really.
Hmm.
Uh,
Let me flip the question then.
okay.
If 25th got like 10 grand at each national, would you still be playing?
Are you kidding me? That's a lot of money.
If we got to the point where like first was getting like 250K and then 25th was getting like 1K or like 10K.
Well, at that point, it would be okay. Well, at that point, it's difficult to say because, you know, when you add all that much more money, people are going to work harder. That's plain and simple. Right now, we are in a position where a lot of people do not work that hard, as you have noted. And again, I don't know how hard or not people work on a personal level as well as I used to, but I would agree with your assessment that, you know, we don't work as hard as we can. Only top 6 gets paid. But in an environment where you could make a living getting possibly 25th, all of a sudden there's going to be a lot more pressure and a bigger scramble to get 25th. Like, there's going to be people who will work harder. There's going to be more drive. People will put in the hours because at that point it is more efficient than having a job in a lot of ways.
Would you make that jump, or is just the fire that you do not have to become the best just not there, that you just don't want to do it anymore?
Again, I have never played this game strictly for money, just because there isn't any money in the game, at least not for someone like me. So basically, it's been 100% love powering me this entire time.
Yeah.
And I mean, Melee have had great years together. We'll probably have a few more, but not like I think I need an open relationship.
I see.
To put it in layman's terms. Yeah, no, like money has never been something on the table where it's like a real possibility for someone like me, so I can't say how I would react to money suddenly being on the table. Like, this isn't a possibility I even like fathom could happen. Maybe. I'll say maybe.
Okay, so we don't know, and that's fair, right? Because that's a thought experiment that like I haven't really hashed into at all. Like, because people have asked me like, how much money would I need as a content creator to drop my job? And I frankly don't know the answer to that, even after thinking about it. And,
well, it depends. Like, what standard of living can you deal with?
I mean, there's like stability and there's standard of living. There's the fact that I work at NASA JPL. Like, I'm pretty stable. Like. And like, there's so many things that I would have to consider that like I would have to kind of see the situation play out before
whenever you're dealing with something like how much could I need to live, like if you like how much do you need to live, like I don't know, you could theoretically live off like not as much money as like I feel like if you're willing to cut corners and like just have the bare necessities, but then that's going to cut into your quality of production. So it's like,
yeah,
it raises other issues. Like, that is a very complicated question. It depends on what you're willing to deal with, what you're willing to deal with while still being able to produce content effectively and be competitive with the other people creating content, because that's going to be a thing. If you can do it, somebody else will try to do it.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. So I don't want to diverge too much. So I'm kind of like alluding, and you know, I know it's midnight for you over there. What do you leave the Melee community? What are the greatest things that you loved and cherished about it? If we were to wrap this up.
That's a very egotistical question.
What are you gonna miss? What are you gonna love? Like, cause like.
I guess the thing that I'm most happy that I'm leaving is you know what? I hope some people benefit from the things that I have written about strategy and characters and how things work. Or I hope a few people out there, you know. I hope that at some point those things help them. You know, I always tried, even when I was like a top 6 player, I always tried to be nice to the people I believed in, or even the people I didn't believe in. Try to encourage them and let them know that they could do it. Like with Nintendo and Prince Abu, like lots of people, I always told them like, I believe in your potential, like you can do it, and I did. Like I truly did. And I've seen some of them like accomplish amazing things, push levels, come up with things that I didn't even think their characters could do, streamline their characters in a way with such an intensity that I was like, this is amazing. These guys are so good. I just hope that, you know, I just hope that I left a positive mark on the community, I guess, at the end of the day. That is what I want.
And I think you have, like, you know, I've had, like, I've gotten so much help from you over the years, and, like, I think my growth as a player and the fact that you're willing to invest in writing paragraphs for me, like, whenever I had a question or a video, you would timestamp and say, like, at 0:20, like, you shouldn't have done this, or what were you thinking at 42 seconds, what were you thinking at minute 5, I would have done this. And I think that, like, helped me a lot, and whenever I had a concept I was struggling with, I'm pretty sure you've done this for tons of people, and you know, as much as Plup and Druggedfox now are trying to push Sheik in a different direction, I feel like you carved the way for the Plups, the Druggedfoxes, the Shrooms, even you probably influenced Mewtwo King in a certain way, and you know, you raised me up to a decent level where I got top 32 at Nationals, so I think you've influenced a lot, and you've excited people, you've created a lot of hype moments. Dynasty is one of your, you know, iconic combos. I think people love watching your Sheik. Like, there's just so much you've done, and, like, aside from just being a player, like, I think we're gonna miss your warmness of, like, you give the warmest hugs. And
Powered 100% by love.
yeah. And so, gosh, like, you know, you're free to do whatever you want, and we respect it, but, like, I know that there are going to be so many people that are going to be like...
I'm not dying.
that I'm not...
Just...
Go ahead.
I said I'm not dying. I just probably won't be around much anymore.
Yeah.
It's not that much.
Yeah, I mean, but, like, a lot of people, your presence will definitely be missed, and I think, like, one of my exciting, like, when I have, like, a list of people, like, I want to go, like, hey, like, I need to make sure, like, I say hi and at least have a 5-minute conversation. Like, you're always on that list. Like, you always, I'm like, God, like, I need a warm hug from KirbyKaze. I need some encouragement. I need to hear his voice. I need to, you know, catch up, because you're just, like, a great guy, and I think a lot of people will miss you. And I'm pretty sure you'll come occasionally to, like, a Canadian event. Maybe you'll come to a national one day, but a lot of people will miss you. And I can say that with genuine honesty.
I love you too, Tafo.
So, continue kicking ass, and I hope that, you know, your drive, the way that you like to see other people succeed over yourself, you're very selfless. I think those characteristics about you will carry wherever you go, whether it's a job or your relationships. There's a magic to...
It's gotten me in trouble a lot.
there's a magic to KirbyKaze, and there's a magic to David McDonald. You're what the rest of the world probably knows you as.
I think I just need to be David McDonald for a while.
Yeah.
Honest.
So go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, I think that's the person I need to get to know a little bit better right now.
That's fair. Do you have any closing thoughts just for the stream, for this interview? Any shoutouts?
Alright, shoutouts. Okay, I'm gonna shout out my biggest fan, and you and Toph are gonna both be kind of disappointed, because it's not either of you. My biggest fan is actually my dad.
I can't compete with that.
Not hands down. I remember when I beat Hungrybox, I came home after the tournament. My dad wasn't home, he was at his girlfriend's place or something, and I'm throwing out some stuff that some Wendy's stuff that we got on the car ride back, and I remember, like, as I'm going, like, throwing things into the recycling, I kind of see something weird sticking out of the side of it, and I, like, pull out the sheet, and it was a printed picture of the bracket. And and my name, where I'd beaten Hungrybox, was, like, circled with highlighter. And I was just like, he looked this up. I was like, oh my god. So definitely my dad. He's been a huge help to me. Very supportive. Obviously the California scene, you, Violence, Toph. Haven't seen Violence as much as I wanted to lately. SFAT, man, I love that guy. Shroom, also love that guy. Few of you don't know him as well as the other two, but Huh? He seems like a swell fellow.
Yeah.
Alan, McCain, Bly Manita, like California, like I miss Lovage. I miss Oscar so much. Johnny, always a fantastic opponent. He only bodied me. Oh my god. He's always tough for me. I think he style countered me, but that's neither here nor there. Hanging out with, honestly, like, man, the thing is, I go on forever. Like, I like so
It's
many
okay.
people.
It's your moment.
I like so many people in the community. Midwest, I will always have a soft spot for Midwest. I remember when they were like the worst region, like they would complain to me about it, and I was like, no, I believe in your guys' potential. This always happens. Like, I remember when West Coast sucked, other than having like Mango, and I was just like, you guys, like, this always happens. Like, there's gonna be one of you that just comes out of it, and just drives everyone, because everyone's gonna be like, I can't believe this guy is like winning, and I think that like Duck is kind of doing that to their region right now. I think Midwest has gotten way stronger in years, and I love seeing them get better because they were the underdog for the longest time. East Coast, man, they taught me so much about dealing with pressure, and obviously I have to shout out Canada because it's my home, my homies, great friends, some of the best people I met. I don't know. I think I've spent probably the best years of my life in this game. And I can't think of a place where I would have rather been. And that's the truth, honestly. This community is amazing. Helped me through some really, really rough stuff. And made me learn a lot about who I am. How to believe in things and try and take risks. This community is amazing.
It is. Well,
not much else to say.
It's over midnight, and I really appreciate. I think this is everybody is going bananas in the Twitch chat, and they have the feels, and they're gonna miss you. But thanks once again for doing over 2 hours of very insightful answers.
I'm actually looking it up. I'm looking up the Twitch chat now. I want to see it. Now that you mention it, I have to see it.
Okay, we'll keep you in for like another minute or two. Do you have
just give me a couple seconds. Let's see
right.
this. All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
A social experiment.
They go the feels. There's the quiet face.
I see a lot of. Wow, you have a lot of facial hair now. I see a lot of Bible thumbs. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've had my fun now.
Alrighty.
Thank you for having me, Tafo.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. I'm gonna stop the recording now.